Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking open a book that was once considered scripture, a book that was almost completely lost to history. It tells an absolutely incredible story, not of human sin, but of a rebellion in the heavens, of forbidden knowledge, and a battle for the soul of the world itself.
I know, it sounds like something straight out of a modern fantasy epic, right? But this is actually the core plot of the Book of Enoch. This is a text that was cherished by early Jews and Christians, and it explains how a group of heavenly beings betrayed their sacred duty and plunged the world into a chaos that, well, it would never fully recover from. And our story, it doesn't begin on Earth. It begins in the heavens.
So, let's dive into part 1, A World Corrupted. Before humanity even had a chance to go wrong, something went terribly wrong up in the heavens. See, this wasn't about a human mistake. This was a celestial conspiracy, a rebellion that would poison the world from the very top down.
So here's how the book lays it all out. 200 of the angels known as the Watchers, these are beings whose job was to guide humanity, instead became completely consumed by lust for human women. So their leader, an angel named Samyaza, gets them all together on Mount Hermon, and they make this pact, this mutual oath, swearing that every single one of them would go through with this forbidden desire. They descended from the heavens, and each one took a wife, completely transgressing that sacred divide between the spiritual and the physical realms.
But, their sin went way beyond just these forbidden unions. The fallen angels corrupted humanity by teaching them heavenly secrets they were never supposed to know. Like one angel, Aziel, taught men how to forge weapons of war, swords, knives, shields. Others revealed the secrets of sorcery, astrology, and get this, even cosmetics. They literally altered the course of human development, introducing violence and vanity into a world that wasn't ready for it.
All right, on to part 2, the sins of the giants. So, these forbidden unions, well, they produced offspring. But these children weren't human, and they weren't angels. They were something else entirely, a brand new race of beings born from this mix of heavenly and earthly flesh. And their very existence was about to push the world right to the breaking point.
These offspring were giants, known in the text as the Nephilim. And the Book of Enoch describes their stature as a staggering 30 cubits. Now, to put that in perspective, that's somewhere around 45 to 50 feet tall. I mean, we're talking about beings of a truly terrifying scale here. And as you can imagine, their hunger was just as massive as their size. First, they consumed all of humanity's resources, every single crop, every animal. But when the earth was picked clean and there was nothing left for them to eat, their ravenous appetite turned on humanity itself. They started to devour people. Yeah, you heard that right. So the world just spirals into this nightmare of violence, chaos, and cannibalism. The book describes it almost like the planet itself was groaning under all this corruption. The earth cried out against the lawless ones, and the voices of humanity being destroyed finally reached the gates of heaven, pleading for justice. Which brings us to part 3, Enoch's heavenly journey. With everything on the brink of collapse and these cries reaching heaven, God is ready to act. But he doesn't just step in directly. No. First, he chooses a mortal messenger, an intermediary, to travel between heaven and earth and deliver his judgment. And that messenger? It was a man named Enoch. A man described as so righteous that God actually called him the scribe of righteousness. His mission was frankly terrifying, to go to the fallen watchers and pronounce their doom. But before he did that, God decided to give him a little tour of all creation. Okay, and this is where the story just blows up into this full-on cosmic epic. See, for Enoch to really grasp the sheer scale of the Watcher's sin, he was taken on this incredible journey through the very fabric of the universe. He was shown its secret workings and granted access to places no mortal had ever laid eyes on. He sees this fiery prison, all set up for the fallen angels, which are described as misbehaving stars just cast into an abyss. He witnessed these hollow places where the souls of the dead were kept, all separated into groups of the righteous and the wicked. He even saw the tree of life and stood before the radiant, completely unapproachable throne of God himself. Okay, part 4, Prophecies and Judgment. Now, this cosmic tour, it wasn't just for the fun of it, Every single vision served a purpose, to reveal to Enoch the unshakable divine law of cause and effect.
He was being shown, in the clearest possible terms, the ultimate consequences of both sin and righteousness. So the key takeaway from all of Enoch's visions was this idea of a great final separation. For the righteous, those who followed God's laws, there would be light, joy, and peace, and they would inherit a renewed earth. But for the sinners and the fallen angels, there was just an eternal curse, darkness, and a final judgment in a fiery abyss. There was no middle ground. So armed with all this knowledge, Enoch goes and delivers God's verdict directly to the fallen watchers. They had actually asked him to intercede for them to ask for forgiveness, but the message he brought back was final, and it was a no. They had known heaven, but chose corruption. Their request for forgiveness? Denied. Their fate was sealed. They would be bound in darkness until that final great day of judgment.
And that leads us to our final part, a controversial legacy. So you have to ask, right? If this story is so epic, so foundational, with fallen angels, giants, cosmic journeys, why isn't it in the Bible that most of us read today? And what's really fascinating is that the earliest Christians absolutely treated this book as scripture. I mean, the New Testament writers clearly knew and respected this book. Take the book of Jude, for example. It quotes Enoch directly, word for word, and calls it prophecy. The book of 2 Peter describes the fate of sinful angels using the exact same concepts you find in Enoch, being cast into chains of darkness. The influence is it's undeniable. But as the centuries went on and religious leaders started debating which texts should form the official Bible, the Book of Enoch started to fall out of favor. It's really fantastical content, its elaborate cosmology, and some questions about its origins led many authorities to label it apocryphal, which basically means interesting but not divinely inspired. And so, it was left out of most versions of the biblical canon we have today. And this, I think, just brilliantly illustrates a fascinating truth about history itself. The official story, the canon, is often just one version of events. The Book of Enoch is this powerful reminder of the rich, complex, and, sometimes wild beliefs that were once totally central to people's faith. And it really makes you wonder, what other epic stories got left on the cutting room floor?